Our co-worker passed very unexpectedly just days ago at the very young age of only 23. Her funeral was this afternoon. Before anyone gets up in arms, it was a small funeral of friends and family and proper social distancing measures were taken. This has been such a hard time for everyone who loved and cared for her. She never failed to keep us cracking up and in good spirits through even the toughest shifts. Anytime we drank together after work, she was always the life of the party. Work and life won't be the same without her around. Tough times like this show that we aren't only co-workers, but a family. The amount of love and support for one another right now is incredible and abundant. You'll be sorely missed, always. Rest in peace, Ratchet. So this happened a few months ago, but I still get a laugh from it today. Long story short, my mother is the kind of parent who is the epitome of an entitled parent. She works for one of those grocery delivery apps and likes to brag about how her ratings are higher than everyone else in her delivery family, how quickly she can shop and how she knows where everything in the store is. So a couple months ago she decided to run to the store to pick up a couple things. Before she left, she asked if I needed anything from the store. I told her I did, but I could not remember what it was. She told me to call her if I remembered it. While she was at the store I realized it was a cleaning chemical I needed, so I gave her a call and asked if she could grab it while at the store. Her response was, "No, I can't get it. I'm in line at the checkout right now and I don't feel like walking all the way to the other side of the store just for that." Okay, whatever, I guess. It would take 2 minutes total. So 2 or so hours later I ran up to the same store to grab my cleaning stuff and some necessary snacks. Lo and behold, who texts me? My mother. "Hey, can you pick me up, insert like 3 food items here, while you're at the store? I need them for dinner." I stared at my phone in disbelief with a big smile growing on my face. So I responded in the most petty way I could, "I'm sorry, I'm checking out right now and don't feel like going back into the store to grab those." I got a good laugh, and unusually for her, she had zero response to that. Dinner turned out just fine without those items too. Just thought everyone here may enjoy that. Edit: I should have specified that the items weren't for the family's dinner. She likes to make us a cheap and easy dinner and herself a much more expensive, fancier dinner because we don't appreciate good food. Her dinner turned out just fine. I lived with my aunt, mom's sister, so that I can go to college, so I was away from my parents, who I admit were kinda toxic to me in a way. For 2 years I lived with my aunt and then I went back to see my family in a summer vacation family trip. I was cutting mangoes for myself, then I asked my dad if he wanted some and he was surprised that I actually offered something. "When were you so nice?" I said, "It's because I learned from." I stopped because I was chewing my mango and wanted to swallow for a second, then my mom screamed, it's me," so everyone in the whole room paid attention to us. I then responded while laughing, "Actually it's Aunt's name." Everybody laughed so loud, my mom was embarrassed and couldn't punish me in front of everyone. Because if she did, it'll just prove how bad of a parent she was. This is my first post, please be kind. This happened about 30 years ago in basic training. I will confess at the time I was scrawny, barely made the weight requirement to get into the army. I was also awkward, weird, and generally a magnet for bullies. It didn't matter because I was going to school for satellite communications and I was going to be in the rear with the gear. One of these bullies was a big corn-fed from Iowa. I don't know what his MOS, military operational specialty, was going to be, but it was going to require more muscles than brains. He stole my hat and said, "What are you going to do about it? Tell the drill sergeant?" I didn't want to look like a crybaby, so I didn't. I just waited for the opportunity to strike back. On the last day of basic training our rucksacks were packed with all the new gear we were issued and sitting next to our bunks waiting to be shipped to our next duty station. We were standing in our final formation when I asked if I could run back to the barracks and use the latrine before we left. I quickly opened his duffel bag, snatched about half the clothes and a pair of boots out of it, spread amongst the other duffel bags, took my hat back, filled his bag back up with cleaning rags, and got back in formation like nothing happened. Unfortunately my story ends here because I left for a different assignment than he did. Never saw him again. But I still smile when I think about it 30 years later. This just happened. As per my previous post, I work as a merchandiser. I don't actually work at any of the places where I set out magazines. I am employed by a third-party vendor. I was at the front of a drugstore putting out tabloids when a lady came up to the empty register. She looked to be approximately in her 70s, so she was an Ethel, not a Karen. After waiting approximately 5 seconds, she asked me in a very annoyed tone of voice, "Can you ring me up?" Apologetically I said, "I'm afraid I can't." I don't work here. I'm just the merchandiser. Angrily she asked, "Can anyone ring me up?" I said, "I'm sure someone will be up here shortly." She put her item back on the shelf and stalked towards the door. Then she turned around. "Does anyone work here?" "Ma'am, I don't work here. I don't know where the store employees are," I responded. "However, the pharmacy in the back is staffed. You could ask there." She was already walking out the door. "God!" she yelled. Finn. Edit, here is my first post. I was with my dad going to the sporting goods store when I was about 13 to 14 years old, and when we walked in we split up and went to different sections. I went toward the women's clothes, and while I was browsing, this guy in his 20s approached me and tried to chat. The way he spoke to me, I could tell he thought I was at least 17 or 18, so I tried to just yeah sure, whatever my way out of a conversation. He wasn't physically intimidating, but he was very focused on me. It was hard to shake him as I wound my way through the section trying to find my dad. Suddenly, when we were in between two racks and a display wall, he grabbed my upper arm with so much force I thought it would break. Before I could say anything, he put his finger to his lips, and said, "You're gonna walk right out of here with me, and you're gonna keep your mouth shut. You got it?" I was shaking at that point, and just nodded lightly. He started to pull me toward the front door, and out of absolutely nowhere, my dad slides into the aisle on the other side of the guy. He leans over and says, "You let her go, and then you run." I'd never seen that amount of crazy in anyone's eyes, and apparently neither had the guy, because he bolted out the front door before I could even comprehend what had happened in the past 30 seconds. After I had calmed down, my dad told me his side of the story. He saw a guy talking to me from the next section over, and thought he was just an employee. Then he noticed that I was trying to walk away and the guy kept pursuing me. When I disappeared all of a sudden, my dad made a beeline for the last place he saw me. He saw the guy standing with me, and had a gut feeling that he needed to intervene. When he saw that the guy had me by the arm, he went into full whoop-ass mode. It definitely pays off to have a dad who served for 25 years in the army. His spider senses are finely tuned, and I'm thankful every day to have him watching my back. My sister moved out of my house after falling out with my mom to my grandmother's house 2 blocks away. She is kinda entitled and very spoiled over there, and me and her kinda get along. So I was eating supper, spaghetti and meatballs, when I asked her, "Can you pass me a paper towel?" She was standing right next to them. She said, "You didn't say please, so no." I thought to myself, okay fine, I'll remember that. About 2 hours later she is hanging out at my house and asks, "Can you take me home?" I said those sweet words, "You didn't say please, so no." So I'm basically just going to copy and paste an email here that I got from a manager. "I dropped off the tech's broken laptop yesterday and I really need to know if he gave you the correct information about what happened to this computer. I feel as though I need to in case he didn't, as this would be a large issue with me, if I had to deal with this and I didn't know." All field technicians are struggling to find bathrooms at this point in time. This field tech, like many others, opened his passenger door to block anyone viewing him, and as he was urinating, his laptop slid off the seat and into the stream. He did stop immediately, but obviously this is the reason it stopped working. To sum it up, he accidentally urinated on his laptop. I told him to put in the report exactly what happened, but I wanted to make sure you knew. Not a laughing matter for that kind of surprise. He is quite embarrassed, and feels horrible about it, but I am glad he told me the truth and didn't try and lie. Someone would have found out later on. I apologize for this, and thank you. So due to a certain worldwide issue, our store can't get hold of flour. Our customers, who have suddenly all turned into top-notch bakers, will stare at the empty spot where the flour is and ask us if we have flour. No, as you can see, we do not. We're ordering it every day and alas, there is none to be had. No, there is no stock out back. Why would we keep a product that is off sale out back when we could be selling it? The worst part for me is when they ask when we will get it back in. It is the one question I can't answer because I genuinely have no idea when we might be getting it in. Then the customers treat you like garbage because you don't know. They expect you to have some kind of crystal ball that will tell you when you will be able to get it in. They will also blame you for the fact our competitors are also out of stock. All I can do is advise trying another store or come back tomorrow to see if stock got delivered overnight, which gets more abuse thrown at you because how dare you ask them to expose themselves to the virus further. It's a nationwide problem. I have no control over it at all. I am a lowly shop assistant, doing 8-hour shifts 5 days a week and just praying I don't catch the virus myself. I can deal with everything else going on in this pandemic right now, but the harassment I am getting over a bag of flour has to stop. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about TJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. So I used to work for a now closed forever stationery store, where we had to wear black bottoms, skirt, jeans, trousers, legit whatever, and a company polo shirt. It's blue, has the company logo on the front, and asked me for help stitched on the back. I think you can see where the confusion began. I would go to another store on the retail park on my lunches, or after work if I worked an opening shift. This store is a pharmacy/drug store type thing, but is a very large brand in the UK, and they do meal deals for lunches. In the summer I wouldn't be wearing my jacket over my uniform when I went for lunch, and I regularly got stopped by people asking me where things were. I went to this shop so often though, that I pretty much knew the general layout, so didn't see the point in not just directing people to the general area they wanted. Occasionally people would get snippy and ask me to actually take them to the aisle or item they wanted, and I'd have to point out I didn't work there, to mixed results. I assume this was because of my polo. It did say to ask me for help on the back, even if the shop's uniform is white, and I'm wearing blue. Then I noticed that even when I was wearing my green hoodie over my top, so the back and logo and name tag were covered completely, people would still stop me. Even when my hoodie was zipped up, people would stop me. I have since discovered that I have a tendency to be asked for help by strangers, and have picked up a few strays before. But it baffles me for a few years there. This happened to Dad when was a young buck and in the army back in the early 1960s. Back in those days, to leave post on weekends, you were required to have a pass. Like any pass, you had to submit it through your chain of command for approval. On Fridays, the orderly room had a slot and wall panel where approved passes would go. You got your pass and signed out of the company when you left and signed back in before the pass expired. Well, being a young buck and getting mouthy was not a good combination. Friday last formation, the company was dismissed and everybody scrambled to get their passes. Dad goes to get his, it's not there. He asks the orderly room where is his pass. The clerk says your platoon sergeant has it. Rut-row, he goes and finds his platoon sergeant and asks about his pass. Oh, I have it. Meet me out at Nijmegen Range at 1800. With a shovel. He says. Dad drives out to Nijmegen Range and meets the platoon sergeant. Before I give you your pass, there's something you need to do. Dig a nice 4'X4'X4 square hole. Dad has an idea of where this is going. He gets a rough XY coordinate of where he's going to dig this hole and digs it. After he's done, the platoon sergeant pulled a tape measure out and measured the hole and checked for squareness. It met his approval. Good job on the hole, says the platoon sergeant. He pulls the pass out of his pocket and tosses it into the hole and tells Dad fill it and tamp it when you're done. After this is all done, the platoon sergeant gives him a verbal counseling on why this happened and he'd best mind his mouth. As the platoon sergeant was getting into his car for the long drive back, he tells Dad now, drive back to the CQ desk, check in with them and if you want your pass still, you can drive back out here and dig it up. He checked in with the CQ desk and went back out to the range with friends to dig it up. They dug in the area he thought he buried it. It was not meant to be. So, somewhere on Nijmegen Range, there is a weekend pass buried to this day. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And hashtag X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And hashtag X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. For context, my family owns a grocery store that has and we mostly cater to Asian foods and groceries. In our store we have a deli, and in the deli we sell fresh fried pork rinds by the pound. With the whole pandemic and us being an essential store, we've been busier than usual. We have been selling more pork rinds than usual, so we've been making them in huge quantities. We also only have 2 sizes, small and medium. Well, yesterday a woman and her daughter came in and the woman wanted pork rinds. Okay, cool. I'm free, I can grab them for her. To prevent people from waiting in a line and bunching up at the deli, we've been pre-bagging the pork rinds in 1-pound bags so we can just grab them and pass them along. This woman did not want the last 2, though. No. She wanted an entirely new bag, with only the biggest pieces. Go through and pick out all the big pieces for me, she says. Andy, we have a scoop here that will just scoop everything in so you'll get a mix of the big ones as well. I respond. No, no. Just pick out the big pieces. Those are the ones I want, says she. I chuckle and ask her if she's sure she wants me to just pick out the big pieces. She nods and tells me to hurry. Her daughter notices my tone of voice and my facial expression and huffs and asks her mom if it's really necessary to just get the big pieces. Yes. I want to boil them with my veggies. So I put my gloves on, open the bag, and dig through the medium-sized pork skin, making sure I only take the larger pieces. One by one, scoop up a new layer to dig for some more big pieces. About 5 minutes go by and she's visibly annoyed. Just use the scoop. She barks. But you wanted me to pick the larger pieces for you. I smile at her. Use the scoop. I'm in a rush. She huffs. Okay. I used the scoop to put in the remaining ounces for her bag. She took it and paid and left. I felt invincible. I've had a roommate for a while now, we are both in our late 20s. We've been getting along really well until a third roommate who's a friend of the landlord came along. Now my roommate and I don't get along and there's tension between us and the landlord, of which we were pretty close with our landlord. The new roommate pretends to be nice and cool with everyone, but I've realized she gossips about each one of us to each other, and that has eventually driven all of us apart. The sad thing is I don't think others realize what she's doing. Now there's this unaddressed tension in the apartment, and this person has only been here less than a month. Conveniently, she's the only one getting along with everyone. I don't know what to do. Yeah, this was a few years ago, but at one time, it was today. Regardless. I had bought a brand new Ford Focus. So excited. I never had a brand new car. I was headed to a friend's house and decided to stop in the Taco Bell drive-thru and grab a few Taco Supremes. That's an important detail because they have sour cream. So, I open the taco wrapper, split it across my lap, and pull out of the parking lot and proceed to eat with my right hand and drive with my left. Well, with it being a new car, I realize at the light that the tilt of the steering wheel isn't quite right, so I reach down with my right hand to grab the tilt lever and adjust it with my left, obviously laying the taco in the wrapper. I'm not that good or reckless, and proceed. Soon after, I looked at my hand and noticed I had sour cream on my hand. I paid extra for that. So yeah, I'm gonna lick it off. Except it wasn't sour cream. It was lithium grease. Blay. TL, Doctor, I ate what I thought was sour cream after adjusting my new car's steering wheel tilt and eating tacos, and it was actually lithium grease. So I have an interesting job. I work for a nursery that merchandises for many Walmarts in the Midwest. Pretty much my company ships flowers to Walmart, I unload them and place them on the tables. I wear a shirt with my company name on it front and back. So while I work at Walmart, I don't work for Walmart. I legally can't help customers with anything other than plants. Since it's a rainy day today, writing this on my break, we don't have a lot of customers buying plants. However, that didn't stop one old lady. I was stocking some plants and this woman walks up to me. See, customer me, obvious, you know how this works. See, excuse me. Me, pulls out earbud, since customers usually find someone wearing the blue vest and we usually work alone, we are allowed to listen to music, yes ma'am? See, you're on the clock, get those things out of your ears. I need help with the patio furniture. Me, I'm sorry ma'am, but I work for the flower nursery, not Walmart. See, well someone has to help me and you are the only one here. Me, I am sorry, but for legal reasons I'm not able to help you. At this point I still had one earbud in. See, I said get that thing out of your ear and help me. Me, Walmart is not my employer. You have to find one of their associates. They are wearing a blue vest. I work for the flower nursery. Points to logo on my shirt. See, this is insane. I'm telling your department manager that you are being incredibly rude and listening to music instead of helping paying customers. Storms off. Even with one earbud in, I think she was the deaf one. Either that, or she just chose not to listen. Joke's on her though, the department manager isn't here today. I live in an apartment complex in a one-bedroom. My building and the one next to it are all one bed one bath, so not the largest. My neighbors are a couple of stoner hippies and the guy seems pretty chill and mellow. His partner, however, not so much. She likes to dress the part, but actually yells at him constantly and yells about everything else that isn't going her way. Since it's trying to get warmer, everyone has their windows open to let some nice warm air in. Pets also love this because of the view. The two have a pretty big pit of some sort who is a total cutie but also very loud. Every time I walk by their place and notice the dog in the window, I look up at it until it starts barking non-stop and casually resume my stroll. How does it feel to have something loud and obnoxious constantly berating your ears? Ricky is the kind of guy who orders twice a week like clockwork and has never once tipped more than 5%. Ricky is the kind of guy who never shows any appreciation and almost always pushes you away as fast as he can. Ricky is the kind of guy that makes every driver roll their eyes when they see an order from him. Ricky is the kind of guy who almost always calls the store after a delivery to make a BS complaint in order to try to get some free food. Ricky is the kind of guy who has a 65,000 truck, with truck nuts, that over the course of his 100+ orders refuses to tip more than 3 on orders that are 60+. Every pizza delivery place has a Ricky. Don't be like Ricky. My roommate wakes up earlier than everyone else, and he keeps slamming doors. I don't just mean a hard close, like a huge slam, and I wake up with a headache every time. Has like a bull in a china shop. I send him a message, very politely asking him to close them more gently, he ignores it. The next day, same shenanigans with him, so I text him, dude man please stop slamming doors. He goes into this angry tirade about how he's not slamming them, then tries to deflect by demanding where the bath mat is. I have no idea what happened to it, I've been using my towel. To try to placate him I said he'll buy a bath mat if you stop slamming doors. No response. So day 3, sure enough Slammy is still slamming away. Boo! A few months ago, I took a shower late at night and he sent me a very angry text saying it woke him up, so I started taking morning showers. Well, guess who's going to start taking showers at 2 a.m. now? If I don't sleep, neither does he. This happened about 30 minutes ago, and I'm still completely baffled as to how I could do this to myself. After grabbing the mail on my way home from work, I was ecstatic to see the highly anticipated answer to my economic woes. The stimulus check. I was so excited to finally receive the check after almost everybody I know had been receiving theirs, that I made one critical mistake. I opened the letter without a letter opener. About halfway through opening the envelope, my finger caught on the see-through film inside of it, causing me to instantly shred the check in half. So here I sit using Scotch tape to put together the check, hopefully well enough to deposit it online. But this is most definitely one mistake I will never make again, and hope none of you kind souls ever feel this misery. DL, Doctor, excitedly opened my mail to pull out the stimulus check and accidentally shredded it. Now piecing it back together to deposit it, pensive face. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I never understood this habit. This is now my 3rd roommate who regularly lives in the living room, stuffing whatever garbage and waste he is under the couch or under the coffee table when done with it. I really can't fathom it. They just sit there all day and casually stuff garbage underneath themselves instead of getting the flip up and putting it in the garbage bin that's literally feet away. This one takes it further though. Whenever he comes home, the first thing he does is peel his socks off and tuck them under my coffee table. Each week when I tidy up, there's several pairs stockpiled under there. He doesn't wash them and uses socks like tissue paper, using them once then discarding them. Whatever. I honestly don't care why he thinks socks are one-time use only or how much he spends each month on new socks, and he evidently considers them to be trash after one use because he does the same with all of his garbage. So today I'm basically just cleaning up after him to kill time, and over the course of a week his socks have not only started to mold but there were silverfish in them. I have never had silverfish in my home in the 9 years I've owned it. He's moving out July 1st and I am having actual nightmares of the state his new apartment is going to be in after a month of nobody cleaning up after him. The thought of how gross it's going to be literally makes me gag. But at least I'll be able to keep my home clean again for the first time since he moved in. Honestly though, I've had roommates who stuff their garbage under the couch and coffee table before. Would love it if anyone has any insight on why anyone does this, but nothing like this where they think socks are to be worn once then garbaged, under my coffee table. One time I collected all of his clothes from around the house and put them in front of the laundry machine. He picked out the socks and threw them in the garbage bin. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. I'm a manager for a big chain and honestly, I don't know if I'll go back. I've been fed up with the late nights, weekends and holidays since I was promoted. I really don't want to go back to that life. I also am worried about corporate making us do some ridiculous policies we just aren't qualified for. Rumors about temperature checks, not letting people in who have a cough, etc. I hate the guests. I'm fed up with their stupid questions and bogus complaints. The only problem is the theater is my only work experience and I don't have a college degree, so I have literally nothing to fall back on, which sucks. Do you think you'll go back? Managers, supervisors, crew? Why or why not? Hope you're all staying safe out there. For a little bit of background, I am a 21F and I rented out one of my extra bedrooms in my apartment to my 23-years-old brother. Ever since we were little, my brother would pee on the seat of the toilet, walk away, and not clean it up. After a while my mom was shopping and found a plaque that read, "If you pee on the toilet seat, I will clean it with your toothbrush." She never actually did that. That I know of, so, before he moved in I asked my mom if he still did that. She said yes, and when she said that I asked her if she still had the plaque. She also said yes. It was still hanging in the bathroom 8 years later. I asked if I could have it, and later I drove home and hung it in my own bathroom. When Luke, my brother, got home the next day, I told him to listen to this sign carefully because, this is my house. He nodded and walked away. Later on that week, I noticed that he had peed on the seat and left it. As I went to clean it up as I had done for so many years, I stopped and looked at the sign. Now, my brother isn't much for hygiene and he doesn't brush his teeth often. I figured he wouldn't notice and scrubbed it right off. The next week Luke asked me if he could use my car to an interview for a job. I told him, "You better brush your teeth, your breath reeks." I thought he would just use mouthwash or chew on some gum, but he actually listened. Mind you, I never washed the brush. He came out of the bathroom and said, "Did you get different toothpaste? It's really salty." I just said no, and never actually told him. Luke, if you read this, I'm not sorry, just don't pee on the seat and please brush your darn teeth. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says, "Fine, go duck yourself then," which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. My office is on a rotating schedule due to COVID-19. Still, instead of sitting in the main office space which shared a few desks and our main filing system, I am sequestered to a side office which is always empty. Even with boundaries we are only supposed to have one person in each office space at a time. There is normally another person in the office but they were off for the day. So, it was highly assumed I would have the entire office to myself. I'm 33. I grew up hearing the Oscar Mayer Wiener song and once, over 20 years ago, I saw the Oscar Mayer mobile in the wild. A childhood dream made real. I still remember it. Do I recommend learning this song to younger generations who do not know it? Yes. As it happens I have been taking voice lessons in order to not completely embarrass myself at karaoke nights. I can match pitch easily but it is still not pretty. Still, I sing and do voice exercises whenever I can. And as it happens I had the Oscar Mayer song stuck in my head all morning. It only took me about an hour to start singing it, moving all through my learned range and even trying to sound like a few of my favorite singers. I was drumming on the desk and faking a dramatic opera style. I was alone. I was taking it easy. I was belting the earworm as much as I could. A good 2 hours go by before I need to file what I had been working on. Moving down the hallway I mimicked Kevin Bacon in Flashdance. In the threshold to the main office I did a dramatic pause and spun in a circle as I completed with me. That's when my main big boss higher than my boss leaned around the drawers and said, "Hello Mother Reindeer 3. My files dropped and sounded like a bullet ringing off the walls. I immediately dropped to prone position, flattening myself like a flounder. Surely he'd realize I was a ghost. A spectral millennial. Still prone, I said, "Oh hi." I moved my arms to pull my files closer to me. Then I stood, cleared my throat and moved to the cabinet. "How are you today?" "Oh, I'm great." "That's fantastic." I filed my work, pulled out the rest. I'm short, when I look over the filing cabinets only my eyes are visible. I watched him for a few seconds. I told him to have a good day. "Have a good day," I said. "Thank you," he said. Today during the video meeting my team does each morning, there was a resounding question on who Mother Reindeer 3 is and where Oscar has gone, and if anyone has seen him. All 15 of them. DL, Doctor, got caught singing an ad I fondly remember from my childhood and now I have a new nickname. So this happened a few months ago and I have not smoked a tobacco bowl since then. I had my friend over and we were smoking together. When we ran out of weed we made up for it by smoking straight tobacco and sometimes it made me dizzy and stuff but I never got sick from it. Until this time. Just before smoking, my boyfriend also showed up. I told him to come sit, I was just going to smoke real quick and then we could hang out. I packed myself a bowl, a pretty big one, and smoked it all. I felt okay, lightheaded, but buzzing. Not even 2 minutes later I start to feel really hot, and then my vision gets weird. My hands tense up, I could not bend my fingers or straighten them, they were tensed up so hard in this half-curled position. Next my legs, I couldn't move them. I could not lift my feet from the ground, my legs were straight out and I couldn't bend them at the knees like normal. I'm having trouble hearing. There's a huge pressure on my chest and I can barely breathe. My friend says she's going to go. Now I'm crying, begging my boyfriend to help me. I'm drenched in sweat and panicking, gasping for air but not getting enough. My hands are white, everything is tingly yet numb and burning at the same time, I don't even know how to describe it. I try to lay down on his lap and then I have to sit upright and I proceed to vomit a ton. It just kept coming up, heave after heave and it smelled disgusting. The whole garage smelled like it. When it was all up, I felt better. Weak and shaky but that god-awful feeling was gone. Unfortunately it was absolutely humiliating, he had never seen me like that before and he certainly didn't want to kiss me that night lol. Now even the thought of tasting tobacco makes me gag. I never want to experience that again. DL, Doctor, I smoked a tobacco bowl and made myself horribly sick in front of my boyfriend. This was actually a few years ago but I was inspired by the guy who drank some aquarium chemicals out of a Coke Zero can. The year, 2006. My grandfather was running a small ranching operation in his retirement and the time had come to do some branding. As usual we got out to the corrals a little after dawn. I brought a bottle of Gatorade and some breakfast, ate, drank a bit, and got started. There were only 30 to 40 calves to brand so we used a table instead of the rope and drag method. I was about 12 to 13 years old so I was running the table/gate. A cousin was vaccinating, Grandpa was branding. We finish up around noon. I'm hot, sweaty, covered in dust, tired, and most importantly, thirsty. I found my Gatorade, stuck my lips inside the bottle, to this day I'd why I did that, and tipped her back for a refreshing chug of electrolytes. Out of nowhere 10 or so used needles pile up between my lips and the neck of the bottle. Turns out my cousin was using my mostly drank Gatorade to store the sharps thinking it was trash. I'm still not sure how I didn't end up with some sort of disease from that. At the end of the day, and 14 years later, I was fine. Sure was a good lesson for me on looking before you drink. DL, Doctor, drank a Gatorade bottle full of used cattle vaccinating needles. Permanently protected against all bovine illnesses. Hi there everyone. I'm really sorry to post again about this. Couldn't let go of this one easily, embarrassed smiley face. I just finished my notes on the Isdal woman mystery. I exported my notes as images from Samsung Notes app. The notes are basically me scribbling everything I could gather about the case while reading online or listening to the BBC/NRK's podcast, from known facts and witness testimonies to theories. I then organized this information into a PDF file with the woman's known profile, as close to a profile on the men she was seen with as I could gather, crime scene description, she finally my conclusion where I addressed the most popular theories and finished with my own. I also included a few questions that I feel hold a great value for cracking this case. I can now leave everything I have in the hands of the trusty community and finally get some sleep and let my poor tablet charge. D. Notes and key points. Notes_PG1. Notes_PG2. Notes_PG3. Notes_PG4. The case concluded. Your comments and interactions are most welcome. And if anyone can answer the questions in the last part of the PDF file please hit me up. Okay, so this one is about Horse Kid again. This time Horse Kid was at my house, and playing with my hamster. After I put him back in his cage she goes into the room and takes him out again. His name was Duke, and when she took him out, he was exhausted. Duke sort of nibbled Horse Kid because he wanted to get back in his little hut and sleep. Instead of putting him back in his cage gently, Horse Kid decides that they should throw my hamster in his cage, mess up all of his little toys, dump all his water out, and start shaking the cage. My friends and I came up and saw Horse Kid doing this, so we dragged her away from Duke. Now on to revenge. Horse Kid had 2 little sisters, so the next time I was at Horse Kid's house, I got one of the romance books she had, and started reading one of the sex scenes to the little 3-year-old. I told her to ask her mom when I left, and if she asks her where she heard it, just say that Horse Kid read it to her. I'm pretty sure their mom burned those books, and as always, took her family to church a couple more times that week. That's what you get for traumatizing my hamster. R.I.P. Duke. The poor thing got sick and died of a stroke. So I'll keep it as short as I can. Friend, former, borrows a lot of money, over 10K, from me over the course of a few months. Promises she's good to pay it back. And does start over a few months, but never more than $500 a month and some months wanting some of it back. All for bills. Find out later her husband has a gambling addiction, and while I can't prove this, I'm pretty sure that's where my money went. All this time I'm having some mental health issues, suicidal tendencies, mania, etc., and once when I'm going through a depressive episode tells me you're not allowed to talk to me when you feel this way. Fast forward a year and I've cut her out of my life but still have her as a friend on Facebook. I want suggestions what I can do to exact my revenge. At this point it's not even about the money, I just want to make her life miserable. FYI, she moved away, back to her parents, when she had a baby a few months ago and doesn't live in the same city as me anymore. However, she may be coming back to her job, not sure though, in the next few months, or knowing her she may just quit, man shrugging. I'm looking for help with a revenge plot. Please. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. About 2 years ago, when I had just turned 16, I was at Walmart. It was the evening, around 6 or 7 p.m. I was with my dad but he stayed in the car while I ran in to grab some yogurt. While I was looking for yogurt, I saw a man, probably in his late 60s to early 70s, he was pretty tall, probably about 6'2". He was bald, with a gray mustache, he was wearing jeans and a blue flannel shirt. I noticed he was looking at me, but didn't think anything of it. A few moments later I felt a hand on my shoulder, squeezing it pretty hard. I turned around, and no surprise, there he was. I have no idea what he was saying, something about yogurt and something about me. I was kinda in shock and was just figuring out how to get away from him, so I guess I tuned him out. I tried to pull away, but he squeezed harder. Sad thing is, there were a lot of people around, but no one even tried to help me. Finally I yanked away so hard that I got loose, and walked away really fast. I turned around and he was following me. I turned into an aisle and just kept turning into different ones while I called my dad. My dad came in and got me. We looked around for him, but never saw him. Creepy man at Walmart, let's never, ever, meet again. Before I start, this isn't a pity me story, I'm fine. I want to share this because it was ridiculous. I'd met this guy, let's call him DG for delusional guy. I was 16 at the time, he seemed alright, and back then I didn't see the red flags as red flags. So naturally, when he started opening up to me about his abusive ex-girlfriends and how he was such a nice guy and they took advantage of it, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Boy, was I wrong. Fast forward to a year later, DG asks me out and I say yes. Over the course of 2 years, he started creating problems where there weren't any, all the time. He was always the poor victim, I was always wrong. Eventually it got to a point where he'd get mad for anything that didn't involve paying attention to him exclusively. Including sleeping. Always twisting it to make it look like it was the worst crime ever committed. He'd compare me a lot with his ex, let's call her Girl. Girl had supposedly tried to contact him again, but he didn't want anything to do with her because she was toxic and she cheated on him. Here's an example of him getting mad at me for problems he created himself. Once he sent me a random nude and I didn't want to anger him, so I reacted positively. And it became all about how he was a nice guy and I was treating him like a sex object. Few weeks later he sent me another nude, and since I didn't want to make him feel like a sex object, I stayed neutral about it. And of course I was still a monster because I was making him feel unattractive and insecure. There was just no winning with him. I found a job in a fast food restaurant a couple years ago and I broke up with him shortly after, since I was seeing normal humans again, and of course I could suddenly see the entire relationship was far from normal. Not only that, but I found out Girl hadn't cheated on DG. He had cheated on her. She dumped him and he tried to get her back throughout our entire relationship. So much for not wanting to do anything with her, and she's trying so hard to contact me. He was also actively cheating on me with another girl. After I dumped him, he begged me to give him a chance, but I said no. So he sent me a million texts whining about how he was such a nice guy again and he still cared even after how I treated him and I was a piece of shit. I just blocked him and refused to see him, so he started sending his friends. He is still in complete denial, and by now I'm probably another evil toxic ex who broke his heart in his feel-bad stories for his next girl. I feel like I'm turning into a misanthropic jerk. I repel any efforts strangers make to chat with me or get to know me, like at bars or at social/work functions I get dragged into, pre-pandemic. I spend all my free time sitting in my apartment reading or watching Netflix. And when I do go out, you better believe it's by myself and I keep to myself, again, even pre-pandemic. I've had some rocky interpersonal interactions in my life, as I think the vast majority of people have, but the thing my mind keeps returning to is the fact that I'm a call center veteran. I've noticed my work attitude slipping too. Even the smallest customer issue expressed in a polite manner elicits a major eye roll from me. Am I being dramatic? Have I just been in the game too long and run my course? Can anyone else relate? It has been a while since I was a server, but I love reading these and wanted to join in the fun. I worked for a corporate restaurant and loved my boss and the people I worked with. It was one of my favorite jobs. I made great money while being in college and just loved being a server. There will, however, always be that party of 8 that comes in at 10:57 p.m. and we close at 11 p.m. I am the last server on, with faux manager and a few cooks left. I go up and greet them and get their drink order. Of course I am ready to go home, but a 19-year-old always needs money. Anyway, the chain I worked for is more or less a steak restaurant. The problem was, the accent lighting was pink. So you can imagine when you bring someone a steak out and they cut into it, it looks not cooked enough. This was an issue we had all the time. So, I bring their food out and the father cuts into his steak, stands up and starts screaming at me that his steak is medium rare and he ordered medium well. I tried to explain to him it was the lighting and that he was more than welcome to come over by the bar where the lighting is better to look at it. He won't have any of it and tells me he is a chef and that our cooks have no idea how to cook a steak. He shoves the plate into my hands and yells, "Fix it." I walk into the kitchen with the plate in my hand and give it to my cook, who by the way is awesome, and I burst into tears. He grabs the plate and asks what happened. I try to tell him as I am crying like a baby. He storms out of the kitchen, plate in hand, and rips this guy a new one. It was awesome. The guy is trying to apologize and my cook just keeps yelling at him about how he made his server cry and what a piece he is and what kind of man does that. It was priceless. Hope you enjoyed and everyone stay safe. This happened today and I still feel like an idiot. I own a fat cat. She has a name, but normally I just resort to calling her Miss Chubbs, Bubs, Ham, or another equally dumb pet nickname. My boyfriend has a personal vendetta against my cat, mostly because she only really likes me and also likes to wake everyone up at 6 a.m. for food by howling non-stop for hours. She's been on a diet, which means more howling all the time too. Being stuck at home all the time has made for a lot of extra time with the cat, who loves to flop her body into my side to snuggle. Today, my boyfriend did the same thing, nuzzling into my side while I was reading something on my phone. Without even realizing it, I said, "Aw, Miss Chubbs." He immediately sprung back in terror. I had no real occasion of calling him Miss Chubbs, but the fear and disgust in his eyes pretty much confirmed it. So yeah, he's still feeling pretty betrayed. Don't think I'm gonna live this one down anytime soon. DL, doctor, my brain somehow confused my boyfriend for my cat and I called him Miss Chubbs. He's scarred for life. This isn't a particularly intense story, but it's the reason why I have an irrational fear of doors and windows being unlocked. This was about 16 years ago when I was 12. We had just moved into a new house in a nicer area of town to get away from my neighbors, who were dealing drugs out of their mailbox. We didn't know at the time that our new neighbors had a meth lab in their house. I was home alone during the middle of the day, both of my parents worked, and was making a snack after school. Our front door connects to a foyer, that connects to our kitchen. The front door also has 2 windows next to it where someone can peer inside. I was in the kitchen making a snack when I heard our doorbell ring. Like any kid, I never answered the door when I was alone, so I ignored it. The doorbell kept ringing over and over and then started banging on the door. I slid onto the floor and peered around the corner into the foyer. I managed to catch a glimpse of a grown man wearing sunglasses, a blazer, and he was bald. Not joking. He looked like something out of a movie. I sat down on the floor next to our kitchen bar so he couldn't see me from the windows and grabbed our landline off the wall to call my mom. While I was on the phone with her, I heard him banging on windows and trying to open them. We had just moved into this house so we didn't even have curtains on the windows. I was terrified of this man seeing me. My mom told me to try to hide and she was coming home and calling the cops. The man continued to circle around the house banging on windows and trying to pry them open. I was just hoping they were all locked. Eventually he left and Mom got home about 30 minutes later. I shaken to my core. About a year later, our neighbors were busted for having a meth lab. I figured maybe this guy meant to go to my neighbor's house, but got the address wrong. Ever since this experience I have been petrified of doors and windows being unlocked. I'll often go to bed and wake up just to check the doors to make sure they're locked. A few years ago I lived with a friend who had a car. I did not have a car. I didn't mind, I caught public transport and got it cheap being a student. One month I got really sick, and I was at uni late catching up. I ended up missing the last bus back to our unit which left the station at 9:57 p.m. I texted and called my friend to ask for a pickup from the station expecting a sure, give me 5 minutes since it was barely a 5 minutes drive but it took 40 minutes to walk. Turned out he was in a stingy mood and refused to pick me up. Let me say here that I never asked for rides, mostly because he'd lord it over me and I would feel like shoot for asking. But I was sick. I mean, can't keep food down, lost 10 kilograms sick. I had 5 in my bank and this was pre-Uber. I had no one else to call. His reason for not picking me up was that he was in the middle of cooking dinner. So I grabbed my bag and started on the walk home, alone at 10 p.m. Imagine a skinny girl, verge of tears walking down back streets. 50 minutes later I get home and he's just put some pasta on to boil. He's just getting spaghetti ingredients out. He hadn't even started cooking. I was mad, sad, exhausted and pretty sure I had a shower and cried. 4 hours later. He's in bed, petty revenge initiated. This dude knows nothing about cars except how to drive them. I showed him how to check tire pressure, kinda stuff. So I went out, let out some air from a back tire and went to bed. We didn't talk for a few weeks after that. We both hate confrontation and we're both kinda petty. I didn't think anything of the tire until about 4 months later when we were on speaking terms. That week he was annoyed because he'd had to buy 2 new tires for his little shootbox car. He was leaving a friend's house when his back tire burst out of nowhere. He had to call a tow truck and he had no spare, had no idea what to do. Turned out the tire had shred and then came off the rim entirely. He had to get both back tires replaced. All I said was, "Wow, that's crazy." We're good friends now and he doesn't know I let his tire down. He still says it was a total accident, that he must have hit something in the road. DLDR, thousands of shop-level employees got laid off based on a computer algorithm the corporate office designed that doesn't factor in seniority and gives preference to certain employees. Store managers and corporate office employees were not affected at all by these layoffs. Please feel free to ask me any questions, I have lots of free time now. And #X200B. I work at Take 5 Oil Change, same thing as Jiffy Lube, for 5 years and was terminated yesterday along with 1,000 other lube techs. All the stores only have 1 to 3 people working there now. Nobody at the corporate level got let go, all the store managers are still working, and the rest was left up to a computer algorithm. I took pictures of our company's organizational charts in ADP before they locked me out, showing that corporate employees were not affected at all. The regional manager, who is in charge of over 60 stores, actually said that corporate's computers picked which assistant managers and lube techs would stay and which ones would be terminated with preference given to some assistant managers. I have no say in the matter. Apparently experience wasn't a factor in this algorithm. Lube techs who had worked there for more than 20 years got laid off while some techs who just started last year are still being employed. In the letter they sent out to everyone, they stated that all employees terminated will be considered for rehire subject to work history. They aren't even guaranteeing their jobs back, they're basically telling us we need to fill out an application again and hope for a callback. Does this seem pretty messed up or is it just me? How can a company lay off people so easily without care? It sounds like they are using the current events as an opportunity to clean house and start fresh with new people once things settle down. I can't imagine a company anywhere that lets a computer tell them who can stay and who can leave during a layoff. I think what bothers me the most is that I know very well the expendable shop-level employees are only getting laid off so the company can afford to pay the management and corporate employees. They still have 10 employees on payroll making $70–80K a year for unit growth and development. This company is not doing any growing or expanding right now, couldn't they let some of those people go? Thank you for taking the time to read, I just really wanted to vent my frustrations. If what they are doing isn't illegal, then it is certainly the shadiest thing I have ever come across. I have a cautionary tale for you today about the real consequences of overdosing on self-care. Yesterday, I was in the shower shaving my legs too fast just to get it done with. I reached down to shave my outside left ankle, and shaved about a 3-inch strip of skin off. The razor took a solid layer of skin along with the hair I might add, my legs are now baby dolphin smooth. To maintain these baby dolphins I needed another quick shower tonight before bed, after which I'd change the large-sized band-aid on my freshly mowed epidermis lawn. I enjoy hot showers and wanted to do an oil-based face mask which requires steaming for best effects. The kind of steamy, fire cannot kill a dragon temperature I like for these kinds of showers is fine for my normal human skin, but not for the raw Deadpool baby hand skin of a fresh wound. I accidentally moved my left ankle into the lava stream and regretted it immediately, but I only figured out that I burned myself while trying to fall asleep and being unable to from the pain. Now I'm icing my ankle and sharing my story. I think the lesson here is, in these quarantine times, it's okay to skip a shower or two. DL, Doctor cut myself shaving in the shower, subsequently burned the fresh wood with hot water from another shower. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got to deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings, the bill came out to $35, pizza was deep dish when given toppings so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all.